Okay, what I'm going to do is give you a quick intro into calculus. Alright, in terms of calculus, calculus is on paper 1 of your Leaving Cert Ordinary Level Maths paper. It's normally questions 8 and 9. Sometimes they can be really straightforward and the question will just say differentiate, or get f dash of x, or get dy dx. Sometimes, however, they're slightly more sneaky. If they're being sneaky, they will mention rates of change. So in terms of rates of change, they will ask you what rate of change happened with water flowing into a bucket or a marble falling off a building, right? Or they can give you a question which involves a normal function that you're used to drawing and plotting, and they will ask you for maximum or minimum points. So they could have given you a rectangular field and they want you to find its maximum area. Right? So if a question says maximum or minimum, normally question 8 or question 9, they are giving you a hint that you should be using calculus. Right? Another favorite of the Leaving Cert is that they will give you an equation, and the equation is called S, and S represents distance. Right? It will be written using t's. So if you differentiate that function, you will get ds dt. ds dt stands for speed. If you differentiated speed, you would get acceleration, right? The rule for calculus, for ordinary level, is your basic function. So you're given a normal function, so you'll have an f of x function, which involves x's with some powers. The only thing you care about is either x's to a power, or t's to a power, or s's to a power, but some letter to a power. You're not dealing with the normal coefficients and numbers, right? So if I have a function f of x being equal to x to the power of n, it differentiated, so f dash of x is equal to nx n to the minus 1. So what you are doing is you are bringing forward the power, multiplying by it, and reducing the power of the x by 1. Okay, so the power comes forward of the x, multiply by it, and reduce the power by 1. And you ignore all the non-x bits, right, apart from by multiplying. So, if on your exam you got given this function, so they've given us a function called p of x. So p of x is equal to 275x minus x squared minus 2000. I want to differentiate it, so I want to get dp dx. So I want to differentiate this with respect to the x's. So when I look at my first term, I have 275 x's. So my power on my x is 1. So when I'm differentiating it, I will bring its power forward. So I go 1, write down the number as normal, write down my x, and reduce its power by 1. So I get that. The second part of it, I have a minus x squared, so I bring forward its power, write down the x, reduce its power. Alright. Third part, I've got 2000. When I have 2000, I have no x's, so I write nothing down for it. The only things when you differentiate are the bits with the x's. So tidying this up, because at the moment it looked rather scary and messy, 1 times 275 is 275. X to the power of 1, take away 1, is x to the power of 0. Anything to the power of 0 is 1. So this will just become 275. So if I'm differentiating from some number times x, I just get the number. For my x squared, when I'm tidying it up, I'm getting 2x to the power of 1. Okay? So you can just leave it like that, or you don't even have to write down the power of 1. Okay, so if you have numbers on their own, they vanish. If you have numbers times x, you just get the number. If you have x squareds, you get twice the number by your x. This would be the answer for that. I give you a different one. Right, if they gave me a function looking like this, so I've got x cubed plus x squared minus 2x plus 7, and I want to differentiate it. For my x cubed, I will get 3x squared. Alright, so the power came forward, like I'm multiplying. I wrote down my x, I reduced the power by 1. For my x squared, I get 2x So the power came forward and multiplied, wrote down my x, reduced its power. My minus 2x will become minus 2, and the x is gone, and my 7 is totally gone, and that would be it done. Alright, if I have another one, they gave me this function, so function of x is minus x squared plus 6x minus 4. If I'm differentiating it, I'm getting minus 2x plus 6, and my 4 is gone. Okay, so to differentiate something, it's rather straightforward. If they wanted to be extra sneaky, they could give you a function which hadn't been multiplied out yet. So for example, if they gave me s was equal to x plus 2 in a bracket, x minus 3 in a bracket. To solve this, to differentiate it, I would have to multiply it out first at ordinary level. So I'd go x by x and get x squared minus 3x plus 2x minus 6. If I tidy it up, I get x squared minus x minus 6. So that is my s function. If I want to differentiate that, I'm differentiating this. So my x squared, now I see what I'm doing. My x squared will become 2x. My minus x becomes minus 1. And my minus 6 is gone. Okay? So they're your basic calculus. Right? So, in terms of an exam question, if they ask you dy dx's or anything like that, that's what you're doing. Right, so if we have a look at last year's exam question, right? Last year's exam question is question 8, paper 1. Right, so 2018. It gave you a function, so it says the amount of a certain drug in a bloodstream t hours after it's taken is given by some function. Right? They ask you to find out how much of the drug is in the person over a certain amount of time. So you've solved this by plugging it into the table function of your calculator. Straightforward and easy. So you switch on your calculator, go into mode, press 3 to change to table, type in this function using your alphas to stick in your t's, right? Start at 0, end at 9, go up in ones, and you get the answer. Second page, you draw your graph. Right? So in terms of drawing the graph, it's a minus t cubed, so your graph should look like a wave. It says use your graph to estimate each of the following. So if it says use your graph, you have to draw lines on your graph showing where the different bits are. On the next page, we are getting close to where the calculus is required. So it says use the function to find in terms of t the rate at which the drug amount is changing. So it's mentioning rate of change. So because it's mentioning rate of change, that means differentiate this function. So you had a minus t cubed plus 4.5 t squared plus 54t, and you want to differentiate that. So if I have a minus t cubed, 4.5 t squared, and 54t. So that's the function. If you want to differentiate it, what are you doing? So you get a minus 3 t squared plus a 9 t plus a 54. Alright, so you've differentiated because it said rate of something is changing. Alright, so this would be your formula. And this is it in terms of t. For the next part, it says use your answer to find the rate at which the drug is changing after 4 hours. So to do this part, you would just plug 4 in here instead of t. So you go minus 3 by 4 squared plus 9 by 4 plus 54 and get an answer. Going down further, it says use your answer to find the maximum amount of drug. Maximum also meant differentiate. Right, so we're still on the calculus. If the question tells you max, min, okay, your method is you differentiate, let it equal to 0, and solve. Right? So in terms of this, you would have had your minus 3t squared plus your 9t plus your 54, your mentioned maximum, so you let that equal to 0, and you solve. In terms of solving, it's a quadratic, so you use your minus b formula. So in this case, your a is minus 3, your b is 9, your c is 54. You would plug it in and you would get two values. For your two values, we want the maximum, so we need to know which is the max. So you would then plug those values back into the original. Okay? So if the question says maximum or rate of change, it means calculus. Right. In 2017, let's flick. Right, they've given you equations to do with laying cables. They started off with normal functions and then they tell you to use calculus. So use calculus means differentiate. Okay, so to differentiate, write down the original, differentiate it, let it equal to 0 and solve. Alright, so you'll be able to solve that out. And then for 2017, that was that one. 2016, right, it's the one to do with a box and a garden, but on it, in terms of question, again, we're just highlighting it, it says maximum. So maximum means differentiate. And they've even told you, they say find dA dx. Find the maximum value. Okay? So I hope that helps.